Hello and welcome to Wrestling at Random. I'm Jeremy Deemer.
And I am Adam Summers.
This is the podcast where every week we review a classic pro wrestling event from a streaming service.
And that classic pro wrestling event could be a pay-per-view. It could be a major television special, a big arena card from the territory days, or in the case of this week's show, something that we've talked about but never reviewed yet on this podcast, a Coliseum home videotape from the World Wrestling Federation.
That's right. Every week we fire up the randomizer, and the randomizer picks an event. Adam and I watch it. We review the show. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. We always have a great time doing it.
I feel like this week's show that we reviewed, it's proof of concept, or it's proof that the randomizer is in fact random for people that wonder sometimes when they contact us on Twitter or other social media. There is no way on earth that we would have picked this show ourselves. That's for sure.
No, that's for sure. The randomizer, I like to say, it giveth and it taketh away. And we had a good run of shows in the past few weeks. This WrestleFest 91 Coliseum videotape leaves a lot to be desired. Let's give you a little bit of a backstory. From 1985 till 1997, Coliseum Video was a small independent video company that put out VHS releases. The majority of those titles were from the World Wrestling Federation. Mostly best of compilations, pay-per-view events, wrestler profile videos, and you could sometimes find surprisingly great matches that were never released anywhere else. In 1997, upon the folding of Coliseum Video, the WWF started putting out their own video releases under the WWF Home Video banner. Probably best known as the title for the WWF arcade game in 1991.
Yes,
WrestleFest.
Which, by the way, I spent so much time playing WrestleFest at Washington Square Mall in suburban Chicago. My mom would go shopping. She would leave me to hang out at the arcade, and I would play for hours. I would actually say that I probably could watch an hour and 51 minutes of WrestleFest, the video game.
The video game, right.
And maybe get more out of it than I got out of this show. However, continue listening because there are some gems, both of the good and bad and absurd variety on this here WrestleFest. You did mention that a lot of times Coliseum Home Video would have exclusive matches, which we'll hear that phrase a lot if you watch this show along with us. There were some very, I guess you could say, historically relevant matches that aired only on Coliseum Home Video. I would think maybe the biggest one was Bret Hart defeating Ric Flair for the WWF title in September of 1992. It was not a house show match, but it was a Coliseum Home Video match that was, to the best of my knowledge, never aired in full on TV. You could only see it on the Coliseum Home Video. So that's an example of, at its best, what Coliseum Home Video could be in terms of match quality.
Yeah, and WrestleFest became a video compilation series from 1988 to 1997. They were released annually, and this week we watched WrestleFest 1991. And in 1991, watching WWF programming, you got a lot of squash matches on television, and you would have to wait for a Saturday night's main event to get the competitive matches. Every once in a while, you'd get a rare competitive match on a Saturday Superstar show or a primetime wrestling show, but it was few and far between. So when the Coliseum Video releases of compilations would come out, you knew you were going to get competitive matches. And so I knew, when I was a kid, I used to love going to my local video store to rent the Coliseum Video releases when they would come out, when the pay-per-views would come out. I always wanted more content. And so I was excited when we open with a graphic for Coliseum Video.
Yes, with the music, it was nostalgic for sure.
Very much so. And then we get a graphic that says, WrestleFest 91, we hear the pomp and circumstance, the theme song of the Macho Man Randy Savage. The graphic appears over a swimming pool, and it's followed by a graphic that reads, Macho Man Randy Savage man of leisure.
Which is an amazing statement because of the many things, the many monikers that Randy Savage could have. A man of leisure is not something I would have put on Randy Savage. And yeah, we have him. It appears as though he's asleep at the pool, and then at poolside, not in the pool. Thank God.
No, he's lounging poolside. Yeah.
Yes, he's lounging poolside. He appears to be asleep, and then that is, it's spliced. It's intercut with sort of wavy, hazy shots of him losing his retirement match to the Ultimate Warrior, and then he wakes up. And it gets wackier from there.
Yeah, he's lounging poolside in full gear, cowboy hat, shirt, everything.
Yes, the shirt that because Vince McMahon thought that Randy Savage was too old and wasn't in good enough shape in 1991, so he had to wear a shirt while wrestling around that time period, and then lost the retirement match and became an announcer for a spell.
So Savage is our host for this video, and he's reflecting on his amazing career post the Mania 7 retirement match and about that Warrior, and he's gone up since being retired because hosting this video is a highlight of the Macho Man's career.
He says, yes, hosting this could be the pinnacle of his career. He also has another great line saying that you're catching me at my little tranquility base. He also says that the one thing that he never was able to do in his career was wrestle the greatest of all time, Randy Savage.
That's right.
He regrets that he was not able to have a match with himself. He then transitions this to talking about the Ultimate Warrior and saying that the Ultimate Warrior will not be able to handle his opponent on this Here Home video, Earthquake. And then he says, in a way that is definitely not becoming of a man of leisure, dig it. Yeah. Freak out.
It was actually a good promo by Savage. I could listen to Savage talk all day. He's so captivating.
Absolutely.
He throws to Earthquake for a promo. Earthquake does his interview with Jimmy Hart as his manager. They're in front of the green screen with the giant Earthquake logo behind him. Very late 80s, early 90s WWF look. And he says he's going to put the Warrior out of the WWF. Not a great promo.
No. And Jimmy Hart, it's the first of many times we hear throughout this that this is such an exclusive match. Jimmy Hart just kept going on and on about how exclusive this was. We then, as they throw to the match, we see a postcard that says this is, quote, a fan favorite match.
A fan favorite match. And, oh, God, Sean Mooney and Lord Alfred Hayes are the broadcast team.
They're going to guide us through this festival of wrestling from 1991, WrestleFest 91. I will note, as I like to often be on this show, give the fashion report. Earthquake was wearing his Natural Disasters gear in this promo, but then he was wearing his earlier Earthquake gear in this match.
That he was. And before the show...
He's 468 pounds, by the way, is what they introduced him as.
He's a giant man, John Tenta.
Incorrect weight.
Before the show started, we talked about how Sean Mooney was a great event center guy.
Probably the best ever at just that event center. You think of when they did the WCW magazine with Eric Bischoff or Gordon Soley. If anybody like that, he was certainly a better version of Todd Pettengill preceding Todd Pettengill.
Yeah, but as a play-by-play man, not so much.
As a play-by-play man, he was a great event center host.
Couldn't agree more. So Earthquake and Jimmy Hart are out first, like you mentioned. His opponent, the Ultimate Warrior, and Warrior runs down, does his entrance. Quake jumps Warrior as he enters the ring. We get a flying shoulder block by the Warrior. Jimmy Hart immediately distracts the Warrior, allowing Quake to get the advantage.
I forgot how much the Ultimate Warrior ran in place.
He just runs in place.
He ran to the ring, so he covered ground to get from the locker room to the ring. But once in the ring, the man liked to run in place a lot before he would then unathletically bounce off the ropes.
Yeah, this Jimmy Hart distraction allowing Earthquake to get the advantage. Lord Al Hayes scolds the Warrior for such a stupid mistake. And that's when I said, you know what? Maybe Al Hayes might not be that bad of a color commentator. Let's stick this out. I'm going to withhold judgment. Earthquake lots of chokes and stomps, then a bear hug. And I was like, was Earthquake always this hideously boring? This was terrible.
The answer is no. Earthquake, outside of the WWF, Earthquake was awesome. You see stuff of him in Japan, whether it be in like All Japan or even like UWFI, like shoot style stuff. Earthquake was, John Tenta was a great big man, but you would never know it watching this match. Granted, he was saddled with the Ultimate Warrior, who my memories of the Ultimate Warrior was that he was bad, but they were not memories of him being quite this bad.
Yeah, this match was terrible. So, like, this long bear hug spot, Warrior down to a knee, and Quake just lets him drop to the mat, delivers a big elbow, sets him up for his finisher, the Earthquake, where he jumps around the downed Warrior, off the ropes, lands ass first onto the Warrior's chest. This is the same move that Big Josh won with back at the Wrestle War 92 show that we reviewed a few weeks back.
And that Yutaka Yoshi, of all people, the big pink-clad singlet-wearing tag partner of Akabono, used at the New Japan Tokyo Dome show from 2006 that we reviewed last week on this podcast.
And a little bit of a surprise, the Warrior kicked out of the Earthquake's finisher here.
It was the most gentle version of that move I have ever seen. There was so much tender, loving care from John Tenta, Earthquake, here to make sure he did not crush the sternum of the Ultimate Warrior. And maybe that's because Warrior was comically spasming in the bear hug minutes earlier, and maybe Earthquake was concerned for his well-being.
Yeah, Warrior starts shaking the ropes. 3 clotheslines by the Warrior. Earthquake still on his feet. Warrior picks him up, slams him, almost losing him. It was pretty scary there.
It was, yeah. This was like, remember when Bobby Heenan, I think it was Bobby Heenan, screamed about it being a hip toss and not a body slam, and Luger slammed Yokozuna on that naval ship?
On the boat,
That's what this looked like here.
Yeah, big splash by the Warrior. After that, gets the 3 count. This match was nothing.
It was nothing. My takeaway from this is that the Ultimate Warrior is every man who has ever done the bathroom dance at a sporting event when they can't get to the bathroom. Everything he does, whether it's his shaking the ropes, his running in place, his spasming in a bear hug, he appears as though he needs to relieve himself. Not a good match.
No, not at all. Macho Man is back. He tells us that match happened because someone wrote in for it.
Yes.
That fan was wrong. They should not have requested that.
It was, I guess, the operative deal with it being called the fan favorite match is that the fan is singular. It was one fan's favorite match.
And he
that
was
person
wrong.
who wrote
Yes.
in. He actually said, Macho says, "Oh yeah, what a sizzle on that match. That makes me thirsty. Oh yeah."
Something new. Let's go to the manager cam with Jimmy Hart.
Oh God. Yes, let's.
So Jimmy Hart accompanies the Mountie, he's introduced hailing from Canada.
Yes. No specifics. That small country of Canada. We don't get a province. We don't get a city. It's just Canada. Jimmy Hart is dressed up like a Mountie as well. They have matching gear, which you don't see that often. That you see tag partners with matching gear. We'll see that later on this show. But the commitment to matching gear, particularly when Jimmy Hart managed many different wrestlers, I will give him credit for that, if nothing else.
His opponent is a babyface, Big Boss Man. And
yeah,
the Big Boss Man comes out, looks in great shape here, like especially compared to like the 89 Saturday Night's Main Event we reviewed.
Well, it's one of the things we talked about on that. We've
Hogan in the cage.
Hogan Bossman in the cage. We talked about the match that he had as Big Bubba Rogers at Starrcade 86. And this illustrates perfectly what we talked about at that Saturday Night's Main Event show, that Big Boss Man's weight and size fluctuated wildly. And here he was in a slim phase. He could move. He looked great here.
He was svelte, as they say. And we're watching this match from the camera angle over Jimmy Hart's shoulder. Jimmy Hart, he's mic'd up and he's screaming, and it's actually pretty great. Boss Man chasing him, takes off his jacket, and Jimmy Hart begging for his jacket back. We get all that funny stuff. It's good. In the ring, it's all Boss Man. There's no commentary. All we get is Jimmy Hart's mic, and Hart is yelling at the ref most of the time. Quit picking your nose, ref. He's hurt. This is your chance. You gotta take it to him. Work on his leg.
Bossman misses a running knee in the corner. Jimmy starts giving legitimately great advice, like boxing/MMA cornerman advice. But then he punctuates it with, "You're the only law and order in the World Wrestling Federation, Mountie." I also love, it's one of my favorite things in wrestling when, whether it be announcers or wrestlers or interviewers, or in this case, managers, they refer to the gimmick name, the way they say it, like it's the guy's actual first name. Like he's just calling him Mountie. He's like, "Get on him, Mountie. You got him, Mountie. Say on him, Mountie." It just, I don't know why, but I just cackled as I heard that. And I cackled when Jimmy Hart at one point, he's telling the Mountie he needs to take the crowd out of the match. And then Boss Man is near the ropes and Jimmy calls him a big country hick.
You big country hick. Yes, I have that here in my notes too. And to his credit, he told the Mountie to go to work on the leg, and the Mountie went to work on the knee of the Boss Man.
Also, at one point, he grabs the mic, he hands it to the Mountie, who then stands on the apron and says, "I am the Mountie," and then hands the mic back, and the match continues. Yeah,
but that allowed the Boss Man to recover enough to hit a Boss Man slam and get the win. Jimmy gives the Mountie the cattle prod, the taser, and he goes, "I'll sucker him over."
That was
zap
awesome.
him. And then it worked. It actually worked. And so that was fun. I enjoyed the manager cam with Jimmy Hart.
Well, this match would have been exponentially worse without that. So I applaud them for making that decision. I will say that I don't know why Jimmy Hart after the Mountie tases Boss Man, then Hart tells him to stop because you'll get disqualified.
Yeah, that was...
He already lost the match.
Now, I got really excited because Power and Glory with Slick are out next to take on the Rockers. This is going to be a great match. I'm super excited. These are two fantastic teams. Power and Glory being Hercules and Paul Roma. We would see Hercules under a mask as Super Invader in Wrestle War 92.
Under a red sock, let's be accurate.
And in the Boogie Jam under a mask against Jimmy Valiant. Those episodes are available in the back catalog of this podcast.
This is our first time seeing Hercules Hernandez in his natural quote-unquote state, not wearing a mask, not wearing a red sock on his head. We're not being told he's from Bangkok, Thailand. He's just super jacked, mulleted Hercules Hernandez. And they don't call Paul Roma. They call him Romeo Roma.
Yeah, this I did not have any memory of.
I had forgotten. Like, I had great memories of Power and Glory as a team, thinking they should have gotten a bigger push. Loving their tag team finisher of the simultaneous superplex top rope splash.
Loved it.
From opposite corners. So I love their gear. This black and silver gear looks great. One other note, this match they tell us is from Omaha, Nebraska, and basically every match on this show is from a different venue.
But all of the venues look almost the same
except for the last
match, which we'll get to. Yeah. So we see, I think that Power and Glory should have had a theme song. They even coming out to Jive Soul Bro or something with Slick. Yeah. They should have had a theme song. The Rockers are out. They hitting double team moves early.
Oh, before they do that, as the match is about to start, we get this back and forth conversation about Lord Alfred Hayes saying that he thinks the Rockers do well with, quote, the fair maidens of Omaha. He's talking about how attractive these two young, mulleted, rock and roll tag team wrestlers are, and that is how he describes their romantic lives.
double team moves early. We get double super kicks to Hercules, double super kick to Roma as well.
Well, we get about 1.5 super kicks to Hercules, and Sean Mooney even points out that Marty Jannetty pretty much completely misses, and it's all Shawn Michaels doing the damage, and then, they get it all on Roma.
And I do love that the super kicks are called crescent kicks by Sean Mooney throughout the show.
Yes.
Power and Glory in control of Jannetty, double teams, awesome standing drop kick by Paul Roma.
Paul Roma looked awesome in this match. He looked like a superstar. I remember when Paul Roma joined the Horsemen in 1993, people were like violently angry about it. And while I wasn't thrilled, and I think a lot of it was that people were expecting / hoping it would be Tully Blanchard coming back and being part of the Horsemen, Paul Roma was perfectly fine in that role, teaming with Arn Anderson. And here he looked great. It's notable that Hercules has very little interest being in the ring in this match. He gets in, he hits like a slam or a clubbing blow to the back, and he is tagging right back out to Romeo Roma.
Yep, Roma did almost all the heavy lifting except for just double team moves behind the ref's back. As the ref is constantly trying to get Michaels out of the ring, Power and Glory, they were working well as a team here. And Roma wrestles 90% of this match, like you said. Hercules keeps doing, when he's in there, he does these lazy covers. And the Jannetty beatdown, though, just continues for a long time until he finally gets a hot tag to Shawn Michaels. Michaels runs wild. It breaks down to a 4-way. The Rockers go for a double slam to Roma, and they had to, literally muscle him over, but they got it.
Yeah. They had to work for it, for sure.
The Rockers both up to the top rope, different corners on the same side.
Well, they used to do, they were setting up their finisher at the time, which is a simultaneous double fist drop off the top rope. They would each jump off the top from different corners, like you said, on the same side of the ring and hit a fist drop at the same time.
Slick grabs Shawn Michaels' leg, preventing him from coming off the top. Jannetty onto the floor, chases Slick. Michaels also chases Slick, and the Rockers get counted out. This was so lame.
Super lame. And it was, again, one of those things like I believe we talked about on the Saturday Night's Main Event show from 1989 when when Rick Rude got counted out. It's so obvious, or I guess also in the Brainbusters Demolition match on that same show. It's so obvious in this era of WWF when there's going to be a count out because the ref counts at triple speed of what they normally would, in a ring out situation. Very frustrating because the match, even with Hercules not being that great, the match was perfectly fine, very entertaining up to this point.
No, but I felt robbed with this Power and Glory win by countout. I wanted that awesome finisher, or at least an attempt at that finisher. At the post-match, we got a double clothesline on Slick and a double drop kick onto Slick by the Rockers. Yeah,
basically a way for the fans to feel like they didn't get cheated out of seeing the baby faces win the match.
Did not work. Lost. I was cheated.
No.
The Macho Man is still poolside. Let's go from the pool to playing some pool, he says. And he throws it to Ted DiBiase for an interview. And DiBiase says, the Texas Tornado, you have a Cadillac body and a Volkswagen brain. The lights are on, but nobody's home.
Classic Ted DiBiase. He again also talks about how exclusive this match will be. We go to the ring, and I had completely forgotten about how Ted DiBiase's music in the WWF, the $1 Million Man music, is an all-time great entrance song.
Absolutely is, yeah. And he's introduced as the self-proclaimed $1 Million Champion, the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase versus the Texas Tornado, Kerry Von Erich. The last time we saw him was the Christmas Star Wars World Class show in our back catalog.
And this made me very sad because, again, as I briefly mentioned on that show, growing up, where I grew up I grew up in Louisiana, but we got two things. We got Mid-South and we got World Class. World Class being the Texas-based promotion of the Von Erich family. And I loved Kerry Von Erich as a kid. Absolutely adored Kerry Von Erich. Was excited when he went to WWF as a little kid because I'd get to see him again. but he just, after the motorcycle accident, his severely damaged foot, he just was not the same guy at all. And there's, this match has worked almost entirely around his limitations, but we'll get to that in a minute.
Kerry with the mic, he says, Moneybags is all done. Where's Virgil? Come on down. And Virgil, Ted DiBiase's former bodyguard, comes to ringside.
Yes, and they referred to him as his former bodyguard, but if you recall, the whole story of Virgil being with Ted DiBiase and the things that Ted DiBiase made Virgil do, it was very, very uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable back then. When you look back at it now, I mean, it's kind of amazing that they got away with a lot of that stuff. They called him the bodyguard, but at best he was Ted DiBiase's servant. And he eventually, at least, unlike the other very racially uncomfortable, I'll say, angle that we talked about a few weeks ago on this podcast with Booker T and Triple H, at least here, many times Virgil, he was able to. Ted DiBiase got his comeuppance, I'll say, at the hands of Virgil. Yeah.
Tornado jumps DiBiase outside, rams him hard head first into the stairs. DiBiase, every time he tries to go outside, Virgil throws him back in the ring. Does Kerry Von Erich have one foot here? Is that
pretty much
case?
Yeah, that's the situation, which that leads, like I said, to the complete loss of mobility. I will say, on a completely different note, not that, but on a hilarious note, there's a spot on the floor where DiBiase, he's out there, and Kerry Von Erich is behind him. DiBiase is talking trash to Virgil. Kerry taps him on the shoulder. DiBiase just says, "Wait a minute, just a minute." He keeps trash talking Virgil. Kerry taps on DiBiase's shoulder again from behind, and DiBiase screams, "What?" And then he turns around, and DiBiase Kerry punches DiBiase. That was classic. That made this match worthwhile for me.
So both men on the outside. Texas Tornado goes for his discus punch, but DiBiase ducks, and Von Erich punches the ring post
hard.
DiBiase goes to work on the now injured hand, and Von Erich's on the apron. DiBiase lifts him up over the top, pulling him into the ring. Virgil from the outside grabs DiBiase's leg, tripping him. Von Erich lands on top to get the 3 count. This is the Ultimate Warrior Rick Rude finish from Mania 5.
Exactly.
And Kerry Von Erich's your winner, the Texas Tornado.
Literally the exact same finish from that Mania 5 match. And yeah, this was barely even a match, but understandable given the limitations for Kerry Von Erich at this time.
The British Bulldog versus Haku. So we're back and forth early. Haku hits a perfect pile driver.
Well, first, Haku doesn't even get an entrance. The disrespect. This man is already in the ring. He is just an opponent already in the ring getting introduced. Then we get the introduction for Davey Boy Smith, and his hair. You could do a podcast about his hair alone here. It is a cornrow mullet of sorts with these beads at the bottom of each cornrow dangling strand of hair. I don't get it, but he is jacked even by Davey Boy Smith standards. And he is the one thing that, as you're going through the play-by-play of this, he is moving here. This is the quickest I can recall seeing him post British Bulldogs tag team.
Absolutely. And Haku looked great here too. I mean, that pile driver was phenomenal. And Davey, he holds in like a headstand afterward. It was really cool. That was a really cool spot. Long sleeper on the Bulldog. We get this mid-air collision where Bulldog ends up with a high cross into the pin attempt. Mooney called it a flying body tackle.
It was basically that classic spot, which you saw a lot back then and actually saw several times on this show, where they both go for a crossbody and collide. But this was a physically intense version of that for sure. It was interesting and kind of weird, though, that Haku was up first after this, given the way Bulldog got the pin. the pin attempt, but then Haku was up right away, and he was on the attack with yet another chin lock.
We get each guy headbutting each other in the middle of the ring.
Like legit headbutting each other. This was nasty and
nasty.
Weird and surprising on this Coliseum home video from 1991.
Huge backdrop by the Bulldog. Bulldog with a crucifix gets the pin. The winner, the British Bulldog.
Yeah, I enjoyed this match. I thought this was, to this point, as far as the combination of action and an actually satisfying finish, this was the best thing on the show so far, and I didn't mind it one bit.
No, it was totally fine. The Macho Man was shooting some pool, or as champions say, billiards.
Yes, and then he continues to call it billiards over and over again. He describes what type of shots he wants to hit. He's very serious about this game of billiards that he's playing with himself. And then he talks about that he had played billiards with himself recently and lost, which I thought was an odd statement. And I don't know if this was like him wallowing in his retirement loss here and was trying to play up that he just couldn't win anything. I don't know. It was amusing though.
What was not amusing is he sends us to go to the barber shop for Brutus Beefcake, and this segment was horrible.
This is right there with the wedding or the wedding gown match with Stacy Keibler and Daphne. This is right up there with the Miller Lite Girls stuff from WrestleMania 19.
This was so bad.
This is those things, even though they were terrible, like historically terrible, there was at least some pretense of it having something to do with professional wrestling. This was just bad, campy, terrible comedy that isn't funny.
Brutus's grooming tips is the graphic. Beefcake's outfit here is insane. Let's have a fashion corner here real quick.
Yeah, this is... It's long purple tights. I'll get to describing the cut of the tights in a minute, but it's large purple or long purple tights. He has this purple and black jacket, if you can call that. It's kind of just pieces of fabric that have sleeve holes. He has a mullet that is just... I mean, this is a show that is not short on mullets, but his mullet takes the cake by a significant margin. And then these tights... Again, like I said, long purple, but large triangular portions, diamond portions of his tights on either side are cut out from waist all the way to feet. There is less material than there is skin here from Brutus the Barber Beefcake. And I am dying to have the version of Brutus the Barber Beefcake that we had at AWA Super Sunday 1983. What was Boulder? Dizzy Boulder. Dizzy Ed Boulder.
That's right.
This is no Dizzy Ed Boulder here, that's for sure.
No, Beefcake wants to put 1,000-year-old Dead Sea mud into this dude's pores. And
describe this dude, by the way. His name is Bob. I believe he has a mustache.
He does have a mustache.
He has a mullet that is nowhere near as luscious as that of Brutus Beefcake, but yeah, he massages this 1,000-year-old Dead Sea mud all over this guy's face because he says that he doesn't trust the commercial stuff. He's
putting dirt on this guy's face, and I'm sitting here going, "What am I watching?"
I literally am looking at my notes right now, Jeremy, and the next line of my notes says, "What am I watching?"
As mine does as well, and we were both correct because
why does he then puts like a thermometer in the guy's mouth? What was that? I don't get it.
I don't get it. And then he goes, "We'll be back." And then they pause for like a commercial or something.
Which makes no sense because this was only a home video thing. It wasn't a TV segment. So I don't know
why that happened.
If this was just to mark the passage of time of this 1,000-year-old Dead Sea mud mask setting on this guy's face without us having to sit and deal with this any longer, maybe, I don't know.
My notes now say this segment won't end.
Beefcake, and you are correct.
Beefcake starts cutting this guy's hair.
Well, he cuts, by my count, he cut 4 individual hairs.
These grooming tips are unbearable. He cracks an egg over this guy's hair for, quote, protein.
And then he leaves the eggshell in because he says that he needs calcium as well. That did get a legitimate guffaw from me.
Beefcake pulls out a leaf blower and starts firing up the leaf blower to the face of this guy as a blow dryer, and finally, mercifully, this ends the segment.
But it doesn't end right away because we get these long, lingering, close-up camera shots of this man's face being blown and contorted by this industrial strength leaf blower.
Ugh. Do not watch this segment.
However bad this sounds to you, as we describe it, it is infinitely worse.
Yes. No, a lot of people like to hear these reviews and go back and look this stuff up and say, "Oh yeah," and have a good time. Do not, under any circumstance, go watch Brutus's grooming tips.
You need to watch this. Only, particularly if you've gone back and watched the evening gown match, and you've gone back and watched the Miller Lite Girls or Bud Light Girls, whatever it was. You need to watch this so you can rank these. Maybe we'll do a poll after this show has been up for a good week or so.
Yes,
we'll do a poll of what's
Twitter.
The worst segment.
And just the hits keep coming here. Greg the Hammer Valentine again.
I thought of you right away because you texted me as you were watching this show and said how terrible the Beefcake thing was, and then I watched it a few hours later, and then the next thing I see is Greg the Hammer Valentine, and I'm thinking of you and how frustrated you must be. I'm already mad,
and now I've got Greg the Hammer Valentine coming out, but he's taking on the model Rick Martel, and I'm a big Rick Martel fan, so I thought, okay, all right, maybe Rick Martel can make this bearable. Martel, he comes out with his cologne in the spray can called Arrogance. And
wearing all purple. He's got the purple trunks. He's got the purple suit jacket. And Rick Martel was always in great shape. He looks like he should be in the WBF at this point. He is absolutely jacked. The most noteworthy thing to me about this match by far is that we are treated once again as we were in Starrcade 86 to the most uncomfortable role for any wrestler on this podcast. Babyface Greg the Hammer Valentine. We get that again here. We get shots of the crowd, including many children chanting Hammer over and over again. We get a great line from Lord Alfred Hayes where he says that, quote, Hammer has 2 good moves, but Martel has 22 good moves.
And at that moment, Al Hayes, I'm like, you're trying to win me over here, Al Hayes, and I like it. Yes, because I agree. We both did not care for Greg the Hammer Valentine in this match. And
no,
Greg the Hammer Valentine as a babyface here, Jesus, it's so bad.
It's just the ultimate miscasting. It's this old, grizzled dude that does not do a single thing impressive. Nothing that's visually impressive. Nothing that screams babyface. Like I don't hate him as much as you. I think as a mid-card heel, he's perfectly fine. I didn't mind him at all in that tag match with the Tailor-Made Man and the Freebirds on WrestleWar 92. But here, it was not working. Did you also enjoy Lord Alfred Hayes' comment about the hair of Greg Valentine?
I don't think I remember what he said about the hair of Greg Valentine.
Well, he just says, Sean, what do you think about that hairstyle on Valentine? And I just lost it because it almost looks like the Red Rooster without the red.
Yes.
It is not a good look here, even by Greg Valentine's standards.
And let me tell you, nothing happens for minutes in this match. Nothing. We get shoves and then headlocks. Nothing has happened. After a missed knee drop by Martel, Hammer goes to work on the leg. Al Hayes calls the model a tad lethargic today.
Yes.
And my guess is he's as bored by Hammer Valentine as I am.
That was exactly my thought as well. He saw the booking sheet and was like, oh, let's just get through this.
I'm awakened by a cool counter here. Hammer has a hold on the leg, and Martel just leaps over and starts aggressively choking Valentine to get out of this leg hold. This was
awesome. Yeah, Hammer was he kept doing the spinning toe hold, like maybe he'd go into the figure four, but instead it was more of like a Dory Funk spinning toe hold. And yeah, Martel, he's just had enough, like all of us watching have by this point, and just springs to life and chokes the life out of the Hammer here and throws him to the floor, throws him back first into the apron.
I liked because throwing him out to the floor, that gave him a few moments to recover. He wasn't running right out after him. He was taking the time out to shake the leg that was being worked on. He was Martel being good here, being real
very smart.
Very smart. Martel misses a double X handle off the second rope. Valentine back in control again. Both men fighting outside the ring. And I literally said, "Are you kidding me? Another count out?" And then, yep, a double count out. You mentioned earlier you could always tell when the count outs were coming. And as soon as they were both outside, I said, "Are you kidding me? Not another count out."
Well, especially because the ref was counting. The ref was counting so fast again. And this was also almost exactly like the Rockers match that one wasn't a double count out. This was. But then immediately the face gets his heat back. In this case, Greg the Hammer Valentine puts the figure four on the model, Rick Martel. The refs have to come in and pull him off. And then we get a great quote, a great sentence from Sean Mooney where he says, "What an exclusive matchup."
Yeah, Hammer celebrates. He's fist pumping and all excited. And the crowd chanting Hammer. I do not get it. They all celebrate. This sucked. Ugh. Koko Beware versus the Warlord with Slick. At this point, I didn't know if I was going to make it through this show.
Yes. And Warlord, this is not the Powers of Pain era Warlord. This is when they broke him off, tried to turn him into a big singles monster. As they say on the commentary here, he's on the hunt to get a title shot against Hulk Hogan, which, good Lord, does not sound like an appealing matchup. But yeah, he has his Phantom of the Opera style mask. I noted that he looks like a 4 inches taller, roided up Stone Cold Steve Austin here, but that's literally where the comparisons begin and end. Meanwhile, Koko Beware makes his way out to the ring.
I want to tell you, I had no problems with the Warlord as part of the Powers of Pain tag team, late 80s NWA, WWF. But as a single here, he is a zero. He's just a big muscular dude. And that's it.
He is terrible in this match. Koko Beware, as I said, comes down to the ring in his shiny green jacket. He's got his live bird, Frankie. Sean Mooney says there's no question that the Warlord is in the running for a title shot at Hulk Hogan. Lord Alfred Hayes then, hearkening back to the days on this podcast of beating Jim Neidhart being enough to get Randy Savage a shot at the title. Lord Alfred Hayes says he'll certainly get a shot if he can beat Koko Beware here. And then, the match starts.
Wait. I have thoughts on Koko's theme song here. Now, his song is about being the Birdman and coming to
the bird.
Town.
Bird. No. Bird.
Pile Driver was a million times better song. That should always be his theme song. This song, it just absolutely sucks compared to Pile Driver.
I would agree. Much like the Warlord absolutely sucks compared to Koko Beware. Koko Beware was a great wrestler. We do not get a chance to see him in a great match, but he is doing his best to be a miracle worker here because Warlord, it's hard to even describe how not compelling he is, given how impressive he looks when you first lay your eyes on him as this big monster. He throws these clubbing blows to the back. That's pretty much all he does. He throws clubbing blows to the chest. And then I write how he is so basic. And there's no more greater example of that than where he locks on this long bear hug.
Oh, Jesus.
And somehow in this move, for one, you've got Koko, who is doing everything he can to try to look like he's in pain. He's trying to get out. He's trying to rally the crowd. Meanwhile, the Warlord looks like he's about to pass out. He is blown up. He appears as though he's floating in and out of consciousness. He's sweating profusely. He is the man executing this move. And then the best part, is that he literally just like in the storyline of the match gets tired and lets go of this bear hug.
Yeah, and I have in my notes, if the Warlord ever fights Valentine on one of these shows, I quit. I quit the podcast, Adam. If that
fair.
So the Warlord, after this bear hug with a body slam, he misses an elbow drop, and then Coco fires up.
Thank God.
We get a roll up for a near fall. Coco's thrown to the corner. He jumps to the middle rope, does a head and shoulder fake like he's going to do the dive. Warlord drops to the ground, falling for it. And then Coco to the top rope, missile dropkick to the Warlord's face. And Coco,
he lands on his feet.
Yes.
This was so cool.
He almost lands right on his feet after that. That was super impressive. Goes for the cover, only gets a 2 count. Warlord sidesteps Coco flying in, so he hotshots himself on the top rope, clotheslines himself right there on the top rope.
You are giving this way too much credit. Like, we've talked about many times on this podcast, when guys, a hot shot, a stun gun, he literally just takes a half step to the side, and it's not even like a cool counterweight.
Cool. No, I made it sound too cool. I apologize, but
he just moves slightly to the side, almost as though he didn't even mean to do it. And Coco just hits the ropes chest first, and that apparently causes pain. And then, we have the finish here as the Warlord picks him up and hits the running power slam for the win. And again, I've written in my notes, Hogan versus Warlord would have been a horrendous match.
Oh, I have no memories of it, and I'm so glad.
I think they did a house show loop of it. Maybe they did it on like a Saturday Night's Main Event, but I'm almost sure it never was a pay-per-view deal. Maybe I'm wrong. But I recall hearing like years later that Warlord was being groomed for this spot. And then the house show matches they did with Hogan, he lost that spot. And really, it should have happened long before there, because there was nothing in this match that would have said this guy's ready for anything.
Macho's in his house watching the Warrior retirement match from WrestleMania 7 again. And to be fair, it was a great match. If you've never seen it, go watch it. It's probably the best Ultimate Warrior match you will ever see anywhere.
It's right up there with, it's definitely the only one that I would even say is close, and it's probably better than it would be the Rick Rude match that we talked about from WrestleMania 5 that we referenced earlier with that Virgil finish. But yeah, I would say it's safe to say this Savage Warrior match.
Savage Warrior, go out of your way if you haven't seen it. WrestleMania 7, it's fantastic. It's way better than anything on this show. And Savage now introduces the tag team match of the month. So
they have a graphic for this.
The graphic for the tag team match of the month. The Legion of Doom versus the Hart Foundation.
And this is exciting in a lot of ways, similar to how you talked about on the Saturday Night's Main Event show that we reviewed with Demolition versus Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson, that this was a NWA versus WWF Dream match. Very similar here in that while the Legion of Doom, formerly the Road Warriors, were in the WWF, they were a longtime NWA team, and the Hart Foundation had been the gold standard of the tag team division for many years. So this is one of those like Pro Wrestling Illustrated dream matches come to life here.
Absolutely had that vibe. Basic stuff early, but they are so good. It's so easy and fun to watch. It's the opposite of Basic Warlord. These guys was super fun and crisp and great.
Yes, they were doing basic stuff that they were good at, and it worked, and Bret Hart in particular was incredible. I did note, because I have not watched, particularly of this era, a lot of the Road Warriors, the Legion of Doom, and the WWF in a long time, and it just stands out how weird of a fit they are in this like brightly lit arena, kid-friendly, primary colors type of promotion, because my memories of the Road Warriors are growing up as a kid, watching them in the NWA, and them taking a spike off of Hawk's shoulder pads and stabbing out Dusty Rhodes' eyes. And here, while this match is very good and we'll get into it, it's weird because you have the Road Warriors who were just like a wrecking crew for so many years. Here, like they're the baby faces in peril, being beaten down for most of this match, and it is really jarring just to be dropped back into that being their role.
Which is super weird because both these teams are baby faces here.
Yes.
And that LOD gets that role because
very weird.
Watching this, I immediately was thinking the same thing. There's no intensity at all from the LOD. And I used to love NWA Road Warriors intensity. And that was not here at all in this match in 1991. It felt like they were just going through the motions at points in their...
when having a good tag team match, they just felt like another tag team doing a WWF style tag team match, and a good team doing a good WWF style tag team match. But they felt completely stripped of everything that made them the team that got them to that point to be in the WWF. It was just very, very odd, and I wasn't prepared for it.
Yeah, 100%. Hart Foundation take control after Hitman on the outside slides down the apron and throws his knee into Hawk's back as he comes off the ropes.
Well, you mentioned that both teams are baby faces, but this is one of those classic things. We'd see it many times. Remember a Bret Hart Diesel match for the WWF title years later that was like this, where you have two faces or two face teams in this case, and Bret Hart is so good at in match slipping into being the heel and making it work, and then just being a face afterwards, and you know. A lot of other guys wouldn't be able to pull it off, but he was a master at that.
No, and this was the stuff Jesse Ventura was looking for at Wrestle War 92 in that Pillman Zinc match. He was looking for someone to do something dastardly, and you're right, Bret Hart is always the first one to fall into that role. And we got to see Bret in the ring working over Hawk. Classic Bret Hart here.
So crisp.
Always
so
loved
crisp.
that backbreaker. Even a guy that big. Hawk is so big.
The elbow drops, like standing elbows to the forehead, everything that he did was sharp, crisp, intense, violent, but not in like a cartoonish way. He was at the top of his game here.
That was so good. Anvil distracts the ref. He doesn't see that Hawk made the tag, allows more double teaming by the Harts while Animal argues about it. Hitman kicks Animal off the apron, gets him to chase him around. Animal's chasing Hitman around the ring. Bret Hart slides under the bottom rope and just immediately covers up laying there.
Yes.
And Animal gets into the ring after him, but this cover-up allows the ref to have to deal with Animal and put him outside the ring. Hitman pops right back up, and the Hart Foundation hit their heart attack clothesline on Hawk. This sequence was fantastic.
Absolutely. No, that was just a masterclass by Bret Hart. It was fantastic. I did want to note before we go any further in the match, one other thing, just as we're talking about how great Bret Hart is, it's the little things a lot of times. There are several points in this match where he does a snap mirror, but he does it differently than anyone I've ever seen. He does the snap mirror, he's holding the guy's neck in that cravat position, flips him over his shoulder, but he holds on to the neck until the man is completely rotated over and landed on the mat, like the way you would if this was an actual move that you're executing in a real athletic competition. I love that, and I thought it was really just a little unique thing.
So after the heart attack clothesline, that was the Hart Foundation finisher. Animal's in to break up the pin. The Harts continue to double team beat down Hawk, who's in there for a long time. Anvil whips Bret into the corner that Hawk is in. He moves. Hitman crashes into the buckles. Clothesline on the Anvil, and Hawk finally makes a tag. Animal runs wild on both members of the Hart Foundation. They isolate Bret. Animal gives the sign for the Doomsday device. Animal's got Bret on his shoulders. Hawk off the top rope with a clothesline, but no. Anvil pulls Hawk down off the top rope. We get a victory roll up by Hitman. The Hart Foundation are back on the double team on Animal. Hitman to the top rope. Anvil looks like he's going to give Bret like a rocket launcher onto Animal.
Yeah.
And Animal catches Hart coming off the top in midair, hits a power slam. Hawk grabs the Anvil from behind so he can't break up the pin. Ref counts 3. LOD is your winner. The match picked up in the last few minutes big time. Handshakes, pats on the back after, good sportsmanship all around. They're raising each other's arms after the match. This was fun, in the last few minutes especially.
Yeah, it was a very good tag team match. The last few minutes, like you said, were great. The match as a whole was very good. It was just, again, so weird to see the Road Warriors in that role of like playing the Rock and Roll Express in this match. The other thing I wanted to note was you talked about the spot where, Brett goes chest first into the turnbuckle. That's his signature spot where he goes 100 miles an hour, chest first into the top turnbuckle. It was interesting because usually that's always, the opponent Irish whipping him into the corner. Here, he's going for a move in the corner. I believe it's Hawk ducks, and he hits chest first into there. So it was a slightly different way for that signature spot to happen. And that we hear from the announcers that this means that the Legion of Doom are still undefeated in the World Wrestling Federation.
And I thought that this was going to be the end of the tape, but no. This is weird. We get a match from a completely different arena. So while we were in different buildings throughout, the look and feel was the same WWF TV show production.
Yeah, brightly lit arenas, whether it was Biloxi, Mississippi, Omaha, Nebraska, Orlando, Fort Myers, Florida, they all had that Superstars or Challenge TV taping. Definitely not the case here for Marty Jannetty and Pat Tanaka.
This is a house show somewhere.
From Madison Square Garden. That's where it is.
Was this Madison Square Garden?
Oh, it absolutely is. They mentioned it at one point, but you can just tell from the darkened arena. You can see the ceiling. It also has the entranceway is in a completely different spot. So yeah, this is, I'm guessing, pulled from one of the MSG network shows. They would broadcast the MSG house shows on the Madison Square Garden network. And I guess they just needed something to fill out this tape. So we get a double dose of Marty Jannetty here.
Two Marty Jannetty matches on the same show. What did we do
Nothing
to deserve
says
this?
Buy our videotape like this. Taking on Pat Tanaka. And I am fired up at the start of this match because I am recalling just earlier in 1991, one of my favorite tag team matches of all time, Royal Rumble 91, Rockers versus the Orient Express. This was not the Rockers versus the Orient Express.
It was not, but for 1991 WWF standards, this match was really good.
Oh yeah, Sean Mooney thought Shawn Michaels was in this match. By the way, I don't know if you caught that.
We did get a Mooney calling Marty Jannetty Shawn Michaels early on. We have Tanaka going 1,000,000 miles an hour early, just the pace and the speed of these two guys early. It's a complete gear shift from anything else on this show. And
Pat Tanaka
91 WWF in general.
A wildly underrated wrestler. And you also have to remember, these guys had great chemistry together. Not only had they worked together, Rockers versus Orient Express, but in the AWA, the Rockers, known then as the Midnight Rockers, against Bad Company, which was Pat Tanaka and Paul Diamond, who was that's who Kato was, not under a mask at that point. So these guys had wrestled each other a lot by this point, and it definitely showed.
Tanaka to the floor. Jannetty with a plancha over the top rope takes out Tanaka on the floor. Fuji with a distraction. Jannetty, he's going after Fuji while the ref is yelling at him. The ref is yelling at Fuji. This is to allow Tanaka to take the top turnbuckle pad off, and it went on way too long. And
I would say that Toru Yano has studied this tape and learned how not to remove a turnbuckle pad, and is able to remove a turnbuckle in record time compared to Pat Tanaka.
So it was bad on two levels. First, I think Tanaka forgot and got delayed that this was the time he should start removing the turnbuckle pad. And then when he started doing it, he was unsuccessful in removing the turnbuckle pad.
Yeah, it did not work on multiple fronts.
No, and so he couldn't get it off, and this huge long section of this match was not edited off of this match at all. It was just left there, which was unexcusable. So the match started so fast, and then nothing has happened for minutes now at this point. Jannetty finally back into some action, throws Tanaka into the corner, comes flying in for a splash into the corner, but Tanaka moves. Jannetty bounces off the top turnbuckle over the top rope, caught some of the ring post on the way to the floor. This was quite a bad crash and burn for Jannetty.
Yes, absolutely. Then we get Tanaka hitting a leaping low blow headbutt with the referee distracted. And it's at this point that I say, who is this geek ref? This guy is like, I don't know who he is, but he looks like someone that would be a substitute teacher on Boy Meets World. It's just, I have not seen this man before. I don't know if it's that like local athletic commission referee that you'd have to do a couple matches on every show back then. But yeah.
Yeah, Jannetty in the corner, he leaps off the second turnbuckle and throws Tanaka down face first. Tanaka tries to roll him up for a pin at one point with his feet on the ropes for extra leverage, but your geek referee, he sees it. He breaks it up. Tanaka's arguing with the ref, which allows Jannetty to roll him up for a near fall. Big chops by Tanaka, launching Jannetty over the top, back to the floor.
Well, before you're missing what to me is the best spot of this match, and one of those things that I wish would come back. Pat Tanaka's signature move, even if it wasn't his finisher, where the guy bounces off the ropes, Tanaka ducks under, and then as the guy's coming back at him, he has his back to his opponent and comes flying with this like double chop headbutt thing. So cool. I'm shocked nobody uses this nowadays.
That is a very cool spot. And you've got back in the so Jannetty's back in the ring, and he slides underneath Tanaka to get back in the ring, sends him into the ropes. Jannetty puts his head down for a backdrop, and Tanaka flies in with a double axe handle hard to the back.
He kills him with
this was great, and Jannetty sold his back so well, like he was just crushed by that shot by Tanaka. Tanaka picks him up for a tombstone pile driver. Jannetty reverses, has Tanaka in the tombstone pile driver position, but instead of dropping to your knees in the tombstone pile driver, he drops to his ass. The same way that Owen Hart broke Steve Austin's neck with a pile driver.
Yes, and the way that Steve Austin broke Masahiro Chono's neck with a pile driver. I screamed when this happened. I had
drilled Tanaka. He drilled Tanaka with it. It was absolutely brutal looking of a pile driver. I yelled audibly from my couch. We've recounted many moments on this podcast where I've screamed on my couch watching a show. This was one of those moments. Jannetty gets the win here. Thank God that was the finish, because nobody should have got up from that pile driver.
Nobody should have wrestled again from that pile driver. As much as I enjoy Pat Tanaka, and I'm glad his career continued, that was terrifying. It also felt again like it was beamed in from some other decade, much like the finish of the women's tag match from the Super Sunday AWA show. I just, on top of the fact that this was brutal and I was worried for the man's well-being, I was just so shocked that this happened in this match with Marty Jannetty.
So this match would have been great. I think if you edited out all the missed turnbuckle pad stuff and that long pause where nothing happened, this would have been a much, much better matchup. So the Macho Man back in his house gets a phone call from Elizabeth. He thanks everyone for getting to host and then signs off. And
he signs off and he says, I'm signing off because we're, quote, at the peak and the conclusion at the same time.
We're at the peak and the conclusion at the same time. Check you all later. Ooh, yeah, dig it. Down the road.
And then he continues into his conversation with Elizabeth. It's like, yeah, I can do that. And then it ends.
That's going to be how I sign off this show from now on. Check you all later. Down the road.
Oh my god!
So that's the end of our our WrestleFest tape here. WrestleFest.
Please make
91.
sure you rewind it before you return it to Blockbuster.
So best match here for you.
It has to be Road Warriors and Hart Foundation, even though the structure of the match was all wrong. and confused me and just kind of aggravated me. The actual action in that match was very good all the way throughout. The only thing to me that would even be a close contender would be Jannetty and Tanaka.
Yep.
But you'd have to excise that long attempt to take off the turnbuckle for it to get to that level.
Agreed. I'm with you 100%. Worst match for you. We can go. There's a lot now. Beefcake segment aside, that's the worst thing in the history. That's one of the worst things in the history of this podcast. So, Beefcake segment aside, worst match. We'll give honorable mention to the Beefcake segment.
Yeah, the Beefcake segment definitely goes on the Mount Rushmore of worst segments that we've reviewed on this podcast. But I would have to say, oh God, I mean, there's Warlord and Coco, but I enjoyed what Coco brought to the table. It has to be Warlord versus Coco because Warlord was just so irredeemably terrible.
No.
To me, it's between that and the Hammer Rick Martel match.
Here we go.
I can't give the worst match to the Mountie thing just because Jimmy Hart was actually great.
Way too good. No. You were correct. Greg the Hammer Valentine and Rick the Model Martel is the worst match on this show. Warlord and Coco had a finish. This one was a double count out.
Yeah.
After
you're right,
many countouts.
It was a double count out. The action was dull.
It was hideously boring.
Whereas we had, at least in the Warlord match, we had a finish and we had that awesome top rope drop kick. And the other contender would have been you've got Warrior and
and Earthquake.
And Earthquake too, and that was an abomination as well.
So bad.
And you have Ted DiBiase and the Texas Tornado. I can't give that the worst match because I love that whole thing on the floor with Kerry tapping Ted on the shoulder. I'm going to go with. I think you won me over. I'm going to go with the Hammer and the Model.
Yes. The only thing great about that match was the Al Hayes line about Hammer having 2 moves and Martel having 22. So that's the only redeemable thing of that match. That was absolutely the worst. And Beefcake segment, the worst of the worst. So with that, we're going to wrap it up. A reminder, every Thursday we will post on social media what event that week's episode will cover. So make sure you're following us on all the platforms, Twitter and Instagram at WrestleAtRandom, Facebook.com/WrestlingAtRandom as well. The links to all of those and all the possible ways to subscribe, you can do that and then get the entire back catalog at our website, WrestlingAtRandom.com. And make sure you subscribe, rate, and review. That helps others find this show. Tell your wrestling fan friends about us. We rely on your word of mouth to continue to spread the word about this show. Tell your friends who used to be wrestling fans about us to come take a trip down memory lane. And when you're interacting with the show, please, leave us positive feedback on your podcatcher of choice. Leave your comments there and your 5 stars. We read every single one of them. We appreciate every single one of them. Any criticisms or feedback or recommendations, send those directly to us on Twitter. That's you can interact with the show with us there. We'd love to hear positive, negative, all the feedback there as well. So please continue to interact with the show there. All of that is available again at WrestlingAtRandom.com. And with that, we're going to call it a podcast. Adam, thanks for joining us.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Jeremy. This was a show in terms of the show that we reviewed. It existed. It happened. And I do just want to reiterate and echo what you said about people leaving their reviews, leaving their comments, and thank people for doing that. The feedback that we've gotten on Twitter in particular has been great, and I've enjoyed conversing with the listeners, and your reviews help. This show is growing. We're seeing new people listening every week. Subscribers are growing, and we want to keep that going. We want to get more people hearing this and discovering the good, the bad, and the ugly of the history of professional wrestling. So I would say this show probably fell a little more toward the ugly, but that's the nature of life when you're hanging out with the randomizer every Thursday and you find out what your fate holds.
And with that, we're going to wrap it up. Check you all later down the road.